I have close to 400 hours in Call of Duty DMZ, and I think it's safe to say that this is a game mode that I'm super happy with and I thoroughly enjoy playing. Now, what I wanted to do today was create a video and just discuss some of the more advanced tips and tricks that I've picked up during my 400 hours in the game, and that can hopefully help you hit the ground running when Season 2 drops on February 15th, whether you're someone that's just brand now starting out in the mode or whether you have some experience already. And one thing I want to mention before we start right in with the tips is that from a gameplay perspective, I thoroughly enjoy playing DMZ solo a lot. So a lot of my points will keep that in mind with the solo mindset and playing stealthy and approaching every combat situation, as well as your way of thinking in that mindset. But that doesn't mean that this is not suited for players that like to group up with their buddies or randoms. You can always improve yourself as a solo player, which will also reflect in your group play, and hopefully there's something here that offers you a little bit of help. So starting us off right away and dropping into a game, whether you're solo or in a group with friends or randoms, one of the smartest things you can do is to pick up a hostage rescue contract right at the beginning or anytime you pass by one of them. This is one of the contracts that is the most versatile in the game because it allows you to essentially get your own personal extraction out of the DMZ. That means that if you fail to actually find a way to any of the other extractions, or maybe those are being camped, you always have a way to get your loot and everything that you have on you out of the map, barring that you have to actually rescue the hostage and then carry them to the exfiltration helicopter. And one of the things that makes this contract so versatile is the fact that once you pick up that phone and you now have the contract in your quest log, you have essentially locked down that location to you and your group alone. That means that nobody else can come by and steal it, come by and kill the hostage or anything like that. And you are able to essentially bank this until whichever time you need it, since there is no time limit to this. So you can grab this right at the beginning of a session of DMZ and all the way right until the end. As long as it's not in the radioactive zone, you can quickly dip by there, kill the elites, extract the hostage, jump in the helicopter, and get out with all your good stuff. Even if later on in the game you decide that you need to be picking up another contract, or maybe someone in your group needs another contract for a mission or something like that, you can simply go on your map screen and cancel this contract, so you are not forced to complete this either, which is again the reason why this is so versatile. Always keep an eye open for these and pick them up because they give you options. Then next up, get into the habit of working vehicles into your movement around the map. So oftentimes I still come across squads that are essentially sprinting over large distances, some of them not even using cover to their advantage, and it is really easy to spot people crossing from one side of the map to the other by simply standing still and watching the horizon or watching a specific area. This is further exasperated by using something like a spotter scope, which most snipers will put into their tactical slot so that they can find enemies relatively easily before lining up those sniper shots on them. This is why vehicles are so important, and while people tend to think that, you know, vehicles give your position away and they make a lot of noise and all of that, the advantage to being able to move in and out of an area under cover of decent armor on the vehicle is always advantageous to not having one. Now, not all vehicles are built equal, of course, and certainly things like LTV, both the gun and the non-gun variant, are what you should be aiming for. Therefore, always plan to work going to Al Mazrah City into your rotation, since a ton of these LTVs actually spawn there, and you can pick one up without having to shell out the cash and buy one with a gun in the shop. However, if you can pick that up, that is another way to also deter squads from pushing on you with vehicles, because that machine gun on top of the LTV actually does a shitload of damage. Either which way, learn to drive vehicles in the DMZ, even if you play solo. In fact, when I play solo, one of the first things I do is I grab an LTV, since this allows me to just scout out areas and essentially decide whether I want to commit to a specific push or something like that, at the same time having the ability to quickly race away if I spot danger. Now, speaking of danger and taking the big map Al Mazrah as an example for this point that I'm trying to make, we have to realize that there are certain areas of the map which will most likely feature players more than other areas of the map. Now, in the case of Building 21, that's also true, even though the location is a lot smaller, and certainly the same will be true once the third map comes out, which is kind of like a medium between Building 21 and Al Mazrah. There are PvP hotspots on the map, examples being Hafid Port, Al Mazrah City, Saeed Mall, and Sawar Village. And these are areas where you are more likely to encounter enemy players. So if you have missions where you need to be killing enemy players, then this should be your first point of contact, your first area to go to. And likewise, there are other areas on the map like marshlands and some of the houses around there where you have usually a less likely chance of running into players. And in the case of you having missions that require you to kill AI, or even if you just want to farm out some XP on a weapon, these might be good places for you to go to do that and not be disturbed by any players. Now, of course, this is not a universal rule, and you can always come across randoms that are moving through an area, but that is of course the beauty and the pain of a game mode like this, that everything is unpredictable. However, some of these things and working out where these areas are where you are most likely to face enemies of a specific kind, whether that is AI or human, is actually going to help you determine where you want to go depending on what you want to do. So map knowledge is absolutely key. Onto the point of locations and specifically map knowledge, this is one of the first things that in my opinion you need to develop as a new player, since being able to move around the map heading for specific areas that you are trying to get to without having to jump into the map the whole time and being orientated in a way that it all kind of looks familiar to you is super important. Now, using Al Mazrah City as an example, or rather Al Mazrah, the entire map as an example, but this is certainly going true for Building 21 as well as the new island that's coming. It is important that you know certain key areas. Now, I don't mean locked locations or anything like that, but I specifically mean things like armories, since armories give you a good option of resupplying your grenades, your tacticals, your lethals, your ammo if you don't have access to resupply boxes or anything like that. Hospitals are fantastic for giving you revive options and ways for you to essentially survive getting into gunfights and getting out of them. Then of course we also have police stations, which usually have a huge amount of guns in them, as well as things that you can take to buy boxes to sell and build up some cash in case you need to buy something. And last but not least, of course, the dead drops, which allow you to deposit cash as well as other valuables, which can decrease your cooldown on your insured weapons. Now, it has already been mentioned that the dead drop locations will be reshuffled in season 2. However, the current 5 dead drop locations on Al Mazrah are shown here. When it gets to the point of key locations or locked locations that you have to use keys to open, these are also not all created equal. I've spent a huge amount of time creating exact videos showing the location as well as an example of what are in these locked locations on the channel, so please feel free to check that out. However, my top 5 that I would suggest, if you have these keys, if you spot them, to hold on to these keys as well as to head to these areas, definitely if you have a key, would be in no particular order: Canal Apartment 103 in Al Mazrah City, Al Sabwa Stone Block Office, which is near the quarry, Chemical Storage Warehouse, which is also near the quarry, then Yum Yum Burger, which is again back in Al Mazrah City, and last but not least, Old Lighthouse Citadel Room, which is all the way at the bottom of Sarif Bay. These locations are good either because they offer a huge amount of items in them that can fully gear you and a team up, or due to the fact that they might be a little bit more remote, hence less chance of running into enemies while you go there weak or on a possible resupply. Absolutely keep an eye out for these 5 because they will treat you well and get you bounced back very quickly after a bad loss. Then last but not least, again, bearing in mind that sometimes your extraction options might be limited. You might not have a hostage rescue and you might not have another way out of the map since something is being camped or there's already a team inside a helicopter. Bear in mind that roof extraction, which has been around since the beginning of DMZ, is still a thing. There's been no indication that they're going to switch on damage for the rotors of the helicopter or anything like that. So you can absolutely find a high area, glide out onto a helicopter right on the tippy top where nobody can see you and nobody can spot you from inside the helicopter, and you can safely extract. I can't tell you how many times this has saved me, especially on the last extraction helicopter, due to the fact that teams will often camp that final helicopter and wait for people to come while sitting inside the helicopter. That gives you an opportunity to get onto the top of that, and you can time it right in just such a way, and you will learn this over time, the timing, that there is also no chance for them to peek out or quickly jump out and shoot you. However, this might take a little bit of practice, but it is pretty badass to pull off. So I wish you all the luck possible. And that's going to be it for the video. Just a couple of tips and tricks. Let me know in the comments down below if you enjoy content like this. If you'd like to see more of this, I have a couple of more in-depth things that I can look at, as well as I'm toying with the idea of a video of like something like the top mistakes that a new player in DMZ, for instance, makes just as they're starting out. Either which way, I'm super excited for this mode, getting a season 2 and whatever comes with that. We don't know everything that is changing yet. At least we've gotten some confirmation that we don't lose our insured slots and that we are getting a full refresh of all of the missions, as well as a 4th faction. So there's going to be a lot for us to do, and consequently there's going to be a lot of new stuff for you guys to see on the channel. So I'm looking forward to that, and I hope you are too. Either which way, it's just super important to me that you have a fantastic morning, afternoon, and evening wherever you are in the world. Until next video, fucking cheers.
They want the best of me now, best of me now, best of me now, best of me. They want the best of me now, best of me now, best of me now, best of me.